Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video, and to another episode of My Thoughts, a series where I give my thoughts on the latest Cars news. Today, people attending the Annecy Film Festival were given an exclusive new look at Cars Lightning Racers, including a clip from the show and a lot of information from the creators. And today, I'm going to break down what was shared thanks to this article from laughingplace.com. Now, unfortunately, because this was, like a private film festival event, we don't have the footage they showed. It wasn't publicly released. So unfortunately, we don't have any images, but we do have a lot of information. So this video is basically just going to be me reading through this article and discussing it. I'm sorry if the visuals aren't all that interesting, but trust me, the information here is stuff that you won't want to miss. This is some very important information about Lightning Racers, and honestly, it gives me a lot of faith in the series. I've skimmed the article, read some parts, but this is going to be my blind reaction to a lot of this information. What I can say, from what I've read, I have a lot of faith in this series, and I think as far as a Cars show aimed at a preschool audience for Disney Junior is, this sounds like it's hitting the nail right on the head, and feels like it's going to be very respectful to the Cars series. As a longtime fan, I really appreciate that. So, without further ado, let's break this down. This was written by Alex Reif for laughingplace.com. Disney Junior opens the hood on Cars Lightning Racer. Okay, get out of here. This website has some, really large bottom third ads, so I am sorry. We're going to have to be paying attention to those. Disney Junior opens the hood on Cars Lightning Racers at Annecy 2026. Inside the 4-year journey to bring Pixar's Radiator Springs to a preschool audience, from redesigns to a first look clip. 4 years is crazy. When you remember that 4 years ago, Cars on the Road came out. So they've been working on this since, the last Car Show launch. Maybe even, it hasn't even been 4 years since On the Road came out. So that's really interesting. There may have been a time where On the Road and Lightning Racers were being developed at the same time. So if anyone thinks that Lightning Racers is like a response or replacement of Cars on the Road, that's clearly not the case, right? This is a separate project. The Annecy International Animation Film Festival's Work in Progress series gave audiences an early look at Cars Lightning Racers, the new Disney television animation series produced in association with Pixar, debuting in 2027 on Disney Junior and Disney+. Moderated by Dmitry Granovsky at Pierre Lamy on Thursday, June 25th, that's today. The panel brought together executive producers Travis Braun and Frank Montagna, supervising director Nathan Chu, and Pixar producer Mary Alice Drum. For those of you who are good with Cars names, that is the character that M.A. Breakdrum was named after in the Cars universe, who together traced the 4-year journey of bringing one of Pixar's most beloved franchises to a preschool audience, and closed with a never-before-seen clip from the series. This, of course, is the image that we already knew from it. Hey guys, it's me, tie-in editing, or should I say tie-in uploading, because while I was posting this video, while it was literally a minute away from being uploaded, Disney released 2 official images from the show. So I'm adding this section to talk about them before I get into the rest of the video where I break down the specifics. Here we have new looks at McQueen and Mater, and a recreation of the classic shot where McQueen sticks his tongue out. This is pretty interesting. These designs look quite a bit different than our previous look at the show. And I've got to say, they look a lot more in line with the traditional Cars art style. Honestly, they look a lot less like chibified than that other image. I mean, just look at this image, the one the article used here, our first look at the show from a couple months back, versus this new look. It is quite a bit different. And I'd argue a lot more in line with traditional Cars design styles. McQueen looks a lot more like McQueen in terms of shape. Mater looks perfectly fine. They're a lot more detailed. I like the coloring and lighting a bit better as well. I've been very interested and concerned about how these would be adapted into the diecast line. And looking at these new designs, I think, honestly, this show will fit into the diecast line perfectly fine. I don't think they have to make, new molds for McQueen or anything. I think these look, they're shaped enough like the characters now. I think it's also just so much more visually appealing. It feels cute and kiddie without feeling, demeaning. I think it works pretty well. I think I definitely prefer this to the previous look we had. But yeah, just wanted to add that in. With that out of the way, enjoy the rest of the article. I would advise you check out the whole rest of the video, even if there aren't additional images there, because it is full of very useful information about the series. Anyway, I'm going to go try to upload this for a second time. Thank you. Cars Lightning Racers follows Lightning McQueen and his best friend Mater on all new adventures in Radiator Springs alongside two new teammates, thrill-seeking dragster Pipes and mud-loving monster truck Miles. Braun opened by reaching all the way back to his own origins. Racing, he explained, had been the family business since before he was born. His father is an IndyCar, NASCAR, and F1 engineer, and his brother is a sports car driver who had won the 24 Hours of Le Mans. I've been researching this show for 36 years, he joked. That is insane. Good for him. Crazy family history there. After creating two Disney Junior shows, Tots and Pupstruction, Braun kept asking to work on a Cars series, but kept getting turned down while Cars 3 was in production. So he's been wanting to do Cars stuff for a very long time. And he works for, he's done shows for Disney Junior. This guy really seems like the perfect pick to showrun this. The breakthrough came when Ayo Davis, president of Disney Kids and Family, and Alyssa Sapphire, head of Disney Junior Original Programming Strategy, called with an offer he described as being handed the keys to a very fast red race car and asked if he wanted to take it for a spin. My jaw hit the floor, he said, a reaction that quickly turned to panic over how to adapt the franchise without, in his words, messing it up. To get it right, Braun, Montagna, and Chu traveled to Pixar in Emeryville to immerse themselves completely in the franchise. They met with Jay Ward, who started as a PA on the first Cars film and has become the brand ambassador who knows every character inside and out. We, of course, all know Jay Ward. Like the article said, he is basically the guy in charge of Cars now, and dug into what Braun called a treasure trove of material. Abandoned storylines, unbuilt sets, and uncompleted shorts. As Braun put it, what audiences see in the films is the tip of the iceberg with an entire pyramid of research underneath. This is incredibly exciting. And regardless of who you are, I think as Cars fans, we could all agree, this is some pretty cool stuff. Getting access to uncompleted shorts, abandoned storylines, stuff like that is so cool. And it will be incredibly interesting to see if any concepts from the Cars universe do make it into the final show. If any of the things that we have known to be cut end up in here, especially uncompleted shorts. I think that is very important. There's a lot of talk in this article, from what I've read, about the Cars shorts. With this being a TV show that's a lot more slice of life, of course, the shorts are a very good place to start with that. When announcements like Lightning Racers come out, it can be hard for them to not feel corporate, right? Part of Lightning Racers, when it was announced to me, felt like, oh, we must capture younger demographic with Cars. Make Disney Junior Cars show. Go ahead, we're gonna make it, Okay, we got these little Kiwi freaks at the bottom of the screen. We're just gonna and hearing all of this makes me so much more confident in a show that I already thought was probably going to be perfectly fine for its audience, right, as a Cars preschool show. But this makes me excited as an older fan of the series. And this lets me know and makes me completely comfortable with the fact that it seems this show is going to get it right for kids. I think they're going to get it right. We have somebody running this show who's made 2 Disney Junior shows and has a massive background in racing. Brother won Le Mans. Like what? Went to Pixar, went to Jay Ward, was given access to the entire Cars universe, and has wanted to do a Cars thing for years and years and years. Maybe I'll eat my words one day, but for now I can say that this seems like it's in very good hands. Drum, who oversaw 4 of the Cars shorts, another reference to shorts, emphasized how seriously Pixar treats these characters and praised the team's deep dive into the world's humor and warmth. Disney Junior's own testing, the producers revealed, showed that surprisingly little needed to change. Cars is already a runaway hit with preschoolers from Cars Land. Please stop with the basketball. So many stupid ads. From Cars Land at Disney California Adventure to Lightning McQueen backpacks, which are an evergreen accessory for kids. Of course. Of course. So Disney Junior, all kids shows, do a massive amount of research to make sure they are adequately helping the preschool audience. When you're doing educational shows, you got to go through child testing. It's something that Sesame Street does all the time. These massive focus groups of kids going to classrooms, to schools, trying to figure stuff out. And it's nice to see they did this as well. Of course, preschoolers who already love the Cars series aren't going to want much to change. So it is really nice to see, again, they consulted kids, said, hey, we're doing a car show for preschoolers. What do you like about Cars? So listen to this. This is really cool and really interesting. This is what this preschooler said. What testing did surface was a hunger for the everyday. Kids wanted to know what Lightning McQueen is like off the track, where he sleeps, what he eats, who his friends are, what movies he watches. That guidance shaped the writer's room, which opened about a year and a half ago under story editor Dana Starfield. With hours of runway the films never had, the series can finally explore Lightning's life beyond chasing the Piston Cup, while keeping one foot firmly planted in the familiar world of Radiator Springs. So the kids they talked to wanted to hear what McQueen's casual life is like. And I think that's really interesting, because it made me think back to when I was a kid, and honestly, it made me think back to Cars YouTube. The videos that I watched as a kid, the videos that I made as a kid. So often, what we did as Cars YouTubers, and what a lot of us still do with telling stories, is tell those slice of life stories. Just messing around with the characters, having them do fun things. That's why my Cars Adventure series is called Cars Adventures. It's about the cars at its core going on different wacky adventures. And I think it's really cool to see that, yeah, that's what kids wanted to see when they were asked, hey, what do you want with these characters? A lot of kids wanted to just see the daily lives of these characters. And I think that makes perfect sense, not only because we don't see much of it, but the little we do see is so perfect, it leaves you clamoring for more. I think the thing Lightning Racers is going to do great, that other recent Cars projects haven't, is focus on Radiator Springs. Focus on that world. That's what I've always wanted to see the Cars universe do more of, honestly. Because Radiator Springs, like I said, it's such a perfect world to tell stories in. It's so cozy and warm. And to have slice of life stories, I think is really great. With, of course, still a racing element. But, beyond the Piston Cup, because we are post-Cars 3. Montagna led the design team, working concurrently with the writers so that visuals and story could feed one another. The central challenge was redesigning Lightning and Mater, drawing on decades of interpretations from golden books and consumer products to find a fun, whimsical look. So that's pretty interesting. Obviously, the biggest controversy of this show, if you could even call it one, it's not like a big controversy, but the biggest talking point is the different art style, the sort of cutesier, kiddier, cartoony, Disney Juniorified art style. It is a little weird to not hear the article, to not have them explain, hey, this is why we wanted to redesign them, because the big question is, why go with the redesign? Like I said in my video when the first image from the show was revealed a few months ago, Cars is already a series that appeals perfectly to a preschool audience, like the article already said. So, again, there doesn't seem to be a need to redesign the characters. There doesn't. It just feels more like they want them more in line with other Disney Junior shows. It's like, fine, whatever. And if the research they did had kids say they wanted a cartoonier art style, then I get it. But still, it would have been nice to discuss why they chose to do the redesigns when Cars in its current art style is already, already popular with kids. Just thinking out loud here. But I do really like what they said, interpretations from golden books, because little golden, oh my gosh, the Kiwis are back. They're having a party. Okay, I'm sorry. They talk about little golden books and consumer products. A lot of people have compared the art style to mini racers, so I wonder if they took mini racers as inspiration for these sort of chibified designs. But yeah, if you want to make a Cars series with a softer, more cutesy art style, Little Golden Books and Mini Racers, both perfectly good starting points. Okay. Designer Justin Rodriguez built a scale showing how far the character could be pushed before he stopped reading as Lightning McQueen. It's very interesting. And the team landed on a chunkier, chubby aesthetic that felt right for preschool while still reading as cool and fast. A breakthrough came when character designer Jose Zelaya pushed the design further, prompting the reaction, "That's our Lightning McQueen." Mater proved equally tricky. Push the eyes too big, Montagna noted, and you lose him. The team kept his core model but adjusted the proportions. A slightly bigger hook, a slightly smaller cab. Realizing the characters would frequently need to grab onto things, the team also gave Mater a front winch. Wow, that's interesting. A feature they specifically asked Pixar for permission to add. It resembles a goatee and only drops down when needed. So that's the first very cartoony thing we've seen here. I get having the characters hold on to things. We did see leaked concept art for Miles, a monster truck, with a front winch as well. But, like, I mean, can't you just turn Mater around? I don't know, that's the first thing today where I'm like, it's kind of a weird choice. I think it'll be very cute and funny. It'll be interesting to see what from the show survives in future Cars material. Mater with a goatee sounds like it goes kind of hard, quite frankly. I think it's a cute and funny idea, but maybe not 100% necessary because you could just turn Mater around. But again, when you have that preschool audience in mind, might be smarter to have the little kids resonate with Mater, facing the front more. But yeah, I absolutely love this peek behind the scenes on the character designs. Because again, Lightning Racers is something that's been kind of elusive. We haven't had much information. So to hear how much work went into this, all the passion and everything, it just gives a voice to the creatives behind this and makes me appreciate it a lot more. Like I said, it no longer just feels like Disney going, this is the Cars show for preschoolers. These are Cars fans trying to do the best they can to make this show that they wanted to make with this audience in mind. And I have a lot of respect and appreciation for the people involved here. Guiding the facial work was a note from Pixar that the team returned to often. The cars are essentially a face with wheels. The eyes ended up slightly larger. An attempt to shrink them, Montagna said, simply didn't look as good. With the leads locked, the team turned to two new friends, each filling out a distinct racing discipline. Yep. Miles is a monster truck built for off-road racing, a giant with a heart of gold who's fearful, a little timid, and prone to bumping into things as he learns his way around. Oh my gosh, the Kiwis are back! The team gave him a paint splatter design as a nod to his love of mudding. Pipes, a dragster, is the final member of the Lightning Racers, specialized in straight-line drag racing. The team studied real cars, Top Fuel, and pro dragsters, but early passes kept reading too much like Lightning. Designer John Jagusak, who worked with Braun on Pupstruction, cracked it with a silhouette like a dustbuster. Where McQueen has a lightning bolt, Pipes gets a star paint job, star-shaped exhaust points, and a pink and purple palette, finished with a wheelie bar and a parachute she may or may not occasionally forget. Yeah, so, again, different type of racing. We've seen monster trucks and drag racers in the Cars series in different forms, but this will be sort of the most prominent role for them as racers. And I think that's interesting and cute and works perfectly for a kid's show where each of the racer characters are a different type of racer. You have McQueen, traditional NASCAR-esque stock car, even if in universe he's now out of date. He's obviously going to be like a mentor in this show. Then we have Miles, who's a racing monster truck, and then we have Pipes, who's a drag racer, and I really appreciate the parachute, of course. You see things like that on cars like that. Think of the Salt Flats racers from on the road. Because Disney Junior audiences respond to repeatable elements, nearly every episode features a get-ready-to-race sequence in which the team gets a transformed racing look. Interesting. Montagna's team unified the racers around three elements: a lightning hubcap wheel, a flame paint job, and a spoiler. Okay, so some very early concept art we saw showed McQueen with a lightning bolt hubcap, and that wasn't in the official look we saw, so that will be added occasionally. So what you're telling me is that they're going to have magical girl transformations. McQueen is going to have a Sailor Moon transformation. Again, repeatable elements. You're going for that preschool audience. Kids respond to things like that in shows very, very well. It's going to be interesting. Transformed looks. When it's time for them to race, they get kind of souped up, which is very cute. I'm just reading this thinking of all the potential die casts we could get, all the merchandise. It'll be fun to see how this translates into the diecast line. They really need to take advantage of this in the mini racers. But now we already have 2 designs for these characters. I don't know what they're going to do with Mater. Translating Radiator Springs meant applying what the team called the Disney Junior Paintbrush, simplifying shapes and colors and tunifying the town while preserving its charm. Braun noted the surreal experience of walking into the world they're creating at Disneyland and studying the Imagineers' work firsthand. That is so cool to go, guys, we need to study Radiator Springs. Go to Cars Land. Awesome. The series also introduces new locations, chief among them the race shop, the Lightning Racers headquarters. Inspired by 1940s and 50s gas stations, diners, and parking garages, it's anchored by a giant tire centerpiece and conceived as a warm, large-scale hangout spot for what is, at its core, a workplace comedy. That's an interesting way to put it. The racetrack, meanwhile, gets Kiwis having the vitamin jam, gets carified details like spark plug columns with the drag strip placed nearby, thanks to a tip from Braun's visiting father, who pointed out that drag strips typically sit just outside the main track. Not much to add here. I'm just excited to see this location, and the workplace comedy is very interesting. I just want to know what the plot is technically. Like, canonically, what are the Lightning Racers? Are they a group of racers training for a race? Are they like a rescue type crew? Like, are not like rescue, like race and rescue, like emergency vehicle. Like, are they helping people out with problems? We don't know. For Chew, the central directing puzzle. Oh, also, it's going to be interesting to see if I'd assume this is in Radiator Springs, and if so, I wonder where. It'll be pretty cool. It's also just nice to see, inspired by 1940s and 50s locations, much like Radiator Springs. Really, I think it's going to remind a lot of people of McQueen's racing headquarters from the video games. That's what's reminding me of. For Chew, the central directing puzzle was that the cars have no arms or legs, yet must gesture and emote like humans. A self-described doodler, he studied the films meticulously, often sketching in analog with whatever pencils and pens were on hand in the ball pen. For the early animation test, board artist Ariel Yat matched his doodles so closely that the two were nearly indistinguishable, and the team recreated iconic Pixar shots with Icon to prove they could be done. That is very cool. That is really, really cool. To go, look, our art style is different, but we could still do exactly what the original movies did. Chew wrote a short visual language guideline to keep the team true to what Pixar established, leaning on Jay Ward as the franchise's gatekeeper. He assembled a directing team of varied ages and sensibilities, often steeped in anime and manga. One steeped in anime and manga, another a traditional Disney fan, to keep the creative perspective collective rather than singular. That is, again, so cool to just have all these people to go, look, we're making a Cars Disney Junior show. I just reading this, I'm so happy this article exists. Even if this show ends up being bad, even if I end up not liking it, even if preschoolers end up not responding to it, I have so much respect for this team they've put together. They really seem like they're going to give it their all. That is so cool. To keep the creative perspective collective, we read that practical staging rules emerged. Cars are staged horizontally and sheeted toward the camera like actors on a stage. Since there's no acting on the side of their faces, and animators are encouraged to push expressions in boards while preserving the truth of materials. That sounds good. Cars are angled, facing each other when they talk, is all that's saying, basically. And animators are encouraged to push expressions in boards while preserving the truth of materials. The chassis stays solid, the suspension does the squashing and stretching. Again, completely accurate to how Cars animates, just in a different style. The board team numbers roughly 8 artists and 3 revisionists, with assistant director Julius Aguimatang, I'm so sorry, I'm messing up all these names, a veteran of the original Cars on board. The panel closed with a never-before-seen clip from the series' 3rd episode, presented in stages from animatic to layout to final render. In it, the Lightning Racers set out to see their friend Joey Lugnut, a trash truck, compete in a trash truck championship. When Lightning and Mater hit traffic, the impatient pair take a shortcut, getting stuck in mud, running off the road by a falling cactus, and getting stalled at a rising bridge. A leap across a ravine nearly ends their trip before Mater's winch saves the day. Yeah, that sounds like a Cars show if it were made for preschoolers. That's really all I've got. I don't really have any notes there. Like, that sounds like the plot of an episode of a Cars show if it were designed for a preschool audience. A little simplified, but everything still seems fine, you know? At its heart, the producers said, the series leans into the franchise's core values of friendship, teamwork, and community. A message Braun called timely, definitely. The team was also intentional about representation, very nice, introducing female characters including Miss Blinker, Doc Dottie, and Lightning's rival Odessa, supported by a female director and a female lead writer. Very good, of course, as always, that is excellent to see in the industry. It's going to be interesting. This Miss Blinker character we've heard about several times. Doc Dottie is an insane name for a Cars character. Because there's a Cars character named Doc, and there's a Planes character named Dottie, and they were both mechanics. And I'd assume this character is also going to be a mechanic. So I just think it's a weird name. And Lightning's rival Odessa, I am super excited. We know Chick Hicks is in the show, but we give Lightning a new female rival character. That just sounds like such a good idea. I just think this is a really, really good character idea. Cars 3, you know, I've been rewatching Cars 3 to do my Cars That Should Be Made video. Cars 3 did such a perfect balance of male and female characters. When you're making a franchise that is, like, boy-centric, I say that in quotes, you know, Cars is a franchise primarily aimed at young boys. Obviously, anyone of any age, any gender, whatever, could watch it. But, people tend to populate the films with just male characters. Cars 3, half the cast of that movie, when it comes to background characters, are male, and the other half are female. So I have no concerns about the Cars Lightning Racers not successfully representing female characters. Cars 3 did an excellent job with that. I think that the show will do great as well. And hey, any new characters, I'm always interested in. Cars Lightning Racers is a true labor of love for all involved behind the scenes. A dream project for Braun, the series is in a race to the finish for its July 2027 premiere. Alright, finally have a date. With Disney Junior having success with adaptations of Marvel and Lucasfilm properties, a Pixar series seems like a natural fit, and Cars may just be the perfect first collaboration. Stay tuned for more news on Lightning Racers as the show gets closer to launch. So there we have it, guys. That is our news on Cars Lightning Racers. I know it's a lot to digest, but I gotta say, I think this show is going to be perfect for the audience that it's aimed for. To hear all of this stuff behind the scenes, there seems to be so much care and love and respect for the Cars series, and that really just warms my heart. I am so happy to see that the team is full of people who love this series as much as we do, if not more, because it's now their job to work on it. When it comes to this being a preschool show, I stand by what I've said before, that I don't think it's necessary to do redesigns, and that Cars is already a series that appeals to people that age and beyond, so I don't think it's entirely necessary, but for what it is, this seems like it is going to be the perfect show for preschoolers that like Cars. And for us older fans, I think there's going to be a lot of stuff to look forward to, just because you could tell these are Cars fans who are going to be as respectful as they can be. For me, a 22-year-old, 23, by the time the show comes out, are things going to be like, am I going to see it and be like, oh, it's, you know, kind of a little dumbed down? Yeah, but, I mean, it's for people 20 years younger than me. And that's perfectly okay. You know, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Every demographic, every age demographic should have content designed to cater to them. And in the case of this series, I think it's perfectly fine. And if you don't like it, that's fine. You know, it's okay. But I think with something like this, clearly designed for a preschool audience, they put together the right people to make the right thing. And I think it'll turn out being very, very cute. I'm very interested to see what happens with merchandise, with the die-casts in particular, how they'll adapt this other art style. But that's for a later date. For now, I'm very happy I read this article. I'm very happy they showed off this show at Annecy so that we could finally learn more about it, and the team that's putting it together, which again, I have a lot of faith in. So hopefully this show ends up being as good for its audience as it seems, and still fun for older people like me. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye now. You know, something is giving me the strange hankering to go eat kiwis. Huh.